Okay, so what does a little Chinese boy from Hawaii know about cooking real Irish food? I mean, it's practically on the other side of the planet. Well, my son decided that he wanted to spend his freshman year in college in Dublin. So naturally, I jumped at the chance to take him and see a part of the world that I've never seen. And of course, I got to taste what real Irish food tastes like and figure out how to make it at home. The stew might just be one of the most quintessential of Irish dishes. When he was in high school, my son went around the island trying to find the best loco moco. So while he was in Dublin, my son made it a point to go around town to find who had the best stew. And he said that mine actually ranked pretty up there. I'm actually not going to start Irish, but French. Like every one of my great stews, I'm going to start with a roux. Melt half a stick of butter and slowly sprinkle in some flour while constantly stirring so you don't get any lumps. You know your roux is done when it turns the color of a shiny penny. Wow, since they're going to discontinue the penny, I wonder how I'll phrase that to future generations. Once it's ready, you can add in your beef and brown it. The only seasonings you really need are some fresh cracked pepper, and some good Hawaiian salt. Then I'm going to add even more flour to coat the beef and seal in the juices inside. Be sure to scrape the bottom of the pot for the fond that is browning down there. That, my friend, is pure flavor. Now in Ireland, they eat beef, but the lamb is really where it's at. Normally, I would add in a couple of nice lamb shanks to my stew. But I happened to find some actual mutton at Safeway, so I couldn't pass that up. Mutton is older than lamb, so it's got a stronger, gamier flavor, and it's exactly the strong flavor that I want to imbue my stew with. Now, if you want to make something taste truly Irish, the key ingredient is a good bottle of Guinness. It may seem stereotypical, but they really do love the stuff over there, and it really is one of their key exports around the world. Just kick back and let the pot stew for about 2 hours. About 30 minutes in, you can chop up an onion and add it to the pot. Okay, every St. Patrick's Day in America, folks will drink green beer and eat corned beef and cabbage. But you know, corned beef and cabbage isn't really an Irish dish. It's actually an Irish-American dish. In Ireland, the dish is bacon and cabbage with a wonderful parsley cream sauce. But when the Irish came to America, they found beef to be far more plentiful and economical resource. So they switched to corned beef. Unfortunately, real Irish bacon is hard to come by in Hawaii. But at least I can make this stew for you. After an hour, you can chop up some big hunks of carrots and throw them in the pot as well. I told my son while he was in Dublin, he needed to learn how to speak Gaelic. At least as much as he knew how to say things in Hawaiian. You know, like malama, kuleana, or pono. Yeah, so he came back only knowing how to say, the next stop is Grange Gorman. But it was interesting that they even used Gaelic on their public transportation. We need to use more olelo Hawaii every day like that. After tossing in the carrots, just let the stew simmer for another hour or so, until the meat is fall off the bone tender. While the stew simmers, I'm gonna make another real Irish dish to go along with it: soda bread. No, I'm not going to be making bread out of Coca-Cola or Pepsi, though that was the first thought that crossed my mind. The soda in soda bread refers to baking soda. See, normally with bread, you have yeast, which releases gas, which causes the dough to rise, making it nice and soft. In Ireland, they figured out that you can use baking soda instead of yeast, and have it react to, say, buttermilk, and have it fill your dough with gas bubbles, similar to the yeast, and a lot faster and easier. So baking soda, flour, salt, and some buttermilk, and you knead the ingredients all together. But not too much, or you'll smash down all the air, which defeats the whole purpose. You know in The Princess Bride where Billy Crystal says he loves a good MLT, mutton, lettuce, tomato, where the mutton is nice and lean? Yeah, no. Mutton needs to stew for a while to get soft, so you actually want a fattier piece. Sorry, Miracle Max, that joke is mostly dead. Spread the dough out into a buttered pan and cut across into the top of the dough. This divides the dough into quarters, or farls as they're called in Ireland. When this goes in the oven, you want to cover your pan or use a Dutch oven. It simulates the bastable pot, the kind of pot that they make the bread in Ireland. The last time I bought leeks from Foodland, I tried growing the stumps in my yard. Instead of growing into the big, fat, wide leeks that you see in the store, it grew into these slender stalks, almost like my green onion. But the smell and taste definitely came out like leeks. Now in Hawaii, we always eat our beef stew over rice, of course. Or, as Frank de Lima sang, beef stew and rice! Beef stew and rice! But when I traveled across Dublin, they served their stew over mashed potatoes. I know it sounds stereotypical again, but they really do eat a lot of potatoes in Ireland. As much as we eat rice with every meal here, I had potatoes with every meal while I was there. When there was a blight on the potato crops in the mid-1800s, it even caused a massive famine, partly because all the other crops were being sent to England. But it's safe to say that potatoes are really super important to the Irish. So I'm going to cook these mashed potatoes the Irish way. That means that after boiling them for 20 minutes and mashing them up, I'm going to add in the other half of that stick of butter. The leeks from my yard, and some real cream or half and half. Just incorporate it slowly until you get the creamy, light, almost whipped consistency that you want. If you're vegetarian and want to skip the stew entirely and just have these awesome potatoes, add a head of kale while cooking the potatoes. And you'll have another classic Irish dish called Colcannon. And that's it! My Irish stew. And my Irish soda bread. Real Irish flavors for St. Patrick's Day. Real Irish soda bread deserves a real Irish cheese to go with it. So I've got a block of one of my favorite cheeses in the whole world, Kerrygold's Dubliner Cheese. It's kind of like a cheddar, but with a whole different flavor profile. It's really hard to describe, so you just have to taste it for yourself. I love this stuff. Guinness has a deep, dark flavor, like black coffee or dark chocolate. So it's exactly the kind of bold flavor that will stand up to the mutton and the beef. Beefy and rich. It's very different from our local Hawaiian style beef stew. Whereas the tomatoes brighten our stew up, the Guinness goes the opposite way with a deeper, darker flavor. And of course, that mutton adds a whole other strong flavor to the stew. And honestly, I'm not sure it would even taste right over rice. The creaminess and potatoey goodness perfectly balances the strong stew. Soda bread doesn't rise as much as yeast bread, so it's denser, almost cake-like. And with that firm, rich cheese on it, it's such a satisfying bite. Such great flavors from all the way on the other side of the planet. As they say in Ireland, Erin go bra. Until next time, joy keen and a hui ho.